That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
No tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering.
Fairly alarmed here.
Welcome to MOTN Reviews, that is Masters of the Nerdiverse Reviews. This is where we discuss some of the shiniest cinematic supernova, Desuka, in the entire Nerdiverse, and also some that are not so brightly lit. You can always find this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, SoundCloud, YouTube, and now iHeartRadio. So if you found us via iHeartRadio, I want to say thank you for listening and welcome. We're going to have a lot of good content coming up, so definitely like, comment, and subscribe. Stay tuned. I'm, of course, your host, Mike G, and I am happy to return back to the reviews, the MOTN Reviews. Beer Business Bureau's own Darren.
What is up, guys? How are you guys doing today?
How's life? How was the universe? How's the nerdiverse? How's it all? How's that last verse? How's everything going, man?
My universe in particular has been great.
Sweet.
Of course, we're have another great movie review to go through.
Absolutely.
We talk about it.
Yes, this is one of the more popular yet polarizing reviews I'm really excited to do. So let's get right into it. The movie that we're going to be reviewing this time around is from the far distant future of 2017, directed by Rian Johnson, and this is
Star Wars episode 8, The Last Jedi.
The Last Jedi. Oh man, where do we start with this menagerie of of butthurt feelings, dude?
I'll start. So, and I'm just going to make this a real quick one to start off with.
Yeah.
I can see, I looking at it from the outside, I can see why people were polarized with this movie.
Absolutely.
I can see why, but at the same time, I don't see why.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Because, especially considering, Rian Johnson, I forget what he did before.
He did Looper.
That's right.
He did one of my favorite movies,
yes.
Brick.
Yes.
Which is, if you ever seen Brick, oh my goodness, just check that out. It has Joseph Gordon-Levitt in it.
Mm-hmm.
Just a quick pitch. It is a crime noir set in high school. Mm-hmm. It sounds goofy, but it's really well done. Rian Johnson's a beast in my opinion, but yeah.
Yeah, so with his take on Star Wars, it's not traditional.
At all.
There's some Easter eggs in there.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that later.
Right.
But, which I did notice, but I didn't. At first, I was kind of off-put with his style, because actually, even though it's not traditional, it's still nothing that from what I've seen from him before.
You can tell that he really stretched out his directorial limbs for this one, because it's completely outside of his realm of operation.
Right.
You look at Looper, you go from Brick to, which is completely grounded, to Looper, which is kind of science fiction but still grounded in at least some remnants of normalcy.
Right.
And then you go to Star Wars, which is the biggest movie you can possibly land.
Right. I mean that's
crazy.
That's well, I mean, Looper was sci-fi and drama.
Yeah.
But this is sci-fi and drama at the highest level you can possibly get it.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's top level, it's S-class science fiction.
Right.
But then at the same time, it's S-class like anticipation. Mm-hmm. It's like
it has a legacy.
It has one hell of a legacy, man.
It's not exactly original content.
Exactly, and you kind of felt like he tried his damnedest to make it original content. Yeah. And that is what's rubbing people the wrong way. Mm-hmm. And were you a Star Wars kid growing up? Are you really into the lore and all that crazy stuff?
I was a Star Wars kid. I didn't really get into the expanded universe, but I have been a Star Wars kid for most of my life.
Okay. Being a rational man, living in an irrational world,
shit. Okay, here we go.
Were you offended by this film?
I wasn't offended. I was, and here's the reason why I wasn't offended. I looked at the movie objectively.
Thank you.
Which is what you're supposed to do anyway.
Exactly.
Because, I mean, just the same way I did with J.J. Abrams. And I love J.J. Abrams.
Right.
A lot of people didn't like his film.
Exactly.
And the reason why I didn't like his film was for a whole host of reasons.
Almost like a polar opposite reason.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't like Force Awakens because, it's just a rehash of A New Hope.
Right.
This is lame.
Right.
Whereas Ryan's movie, this is nothing like Star Wars. Please bring back J.J. Abrams. It's like, it's the perfect example of you can't please everyone.
Right. And Abrams was an executive producer for this film.
Exactly. So he had his fingers in it as well. Yeah. I mean, people think that Rian Johnson just went crazy and made whatever movie he wanted.
No, I don't think so.
The way that it doesn't work that way. Like, so many people had their fingers in this pie. And a lot of the stuff that we're going to get into when we go to the spoiler section of the conversation had to be double, triple, and quadruple authorized by all the powers that be, from JJ to all of the executives at Disney to all of the stockholders. Everyone had to be like, follow this man's vision. And honestly, I think they made the right decision, in my opinion.
I think they made the right decision. I don't think they made the wisest decisions in some parts.
Well, yes, it's not a perfect movie,
I mean, by
far.
Yeah.
But none of them are, if you want to be honest.
Of course not. And, and for me personally, I wasn't that upset because actually history does repeat itself, just like in the original trilogy.
Right.
Empire Strikes Back was kind of a weak movie because it suffered from the sophomore slump.
Yeah.
So it was just weird.
But some held it as the greatest of the trilogy. And that's up for opinion.
Yeah, that's still arguable.
That's very arguable. So, a lot of people go Empire, New Hope, Return. Or people go Return, Empire, New Hope. Everyone's different, but the weird majority is like, and people forget, like, when Empire came out, people didn't like it then. Yeah. A lot of people didn't like Empire when it came back because it was such a tonal shift from the first movie. It was darker, had heavier tones. The good guys lost, right? What is this movie? It's darker. It has heavier tones. The good guys didn't win. You know what I mean? Like, they barely got out with the skin of their teeth. And I think a lot of what's really jarring for people is that this movie is almost is thumbing its nose at the fan base in a weird way. It almost feels almost aggressive, like pawpawing of lore. And that's what a lot of people are upset about, because this movie shakes the apple cart to the point where it tips over when it comes to existing Star Wars lore and what people thought they were going to get. And I think that's also crazy, because this movie it's not going to go the way you think, to quote Luke Skywalker. And it sure as hell didn't, but I kind of wanted that. You know what I'm saying?
Some of the opinions that I actually do I actually have some sentiments toward it, but some people were upset. And I mean, I'm talking about people who aren't, frontal lobe thinkers.
Yeah.
They're not heavy, they're not mouth breathers, and they look beyond just
the basic wham, right?
But
going,
piggybacking off of episode 7, just things that should have been explained weren't. That should have been explained from the point of view of the overall story. That were just kind of diced, kind of slashed.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing with Rey's parents. I mean,
I want to get into that. I want to get into that.
Rey's parents, also Snoke, but
that's fine.
But okay, I get it on both sides. I understand that because in episode 7, Snoke looked extremely menacing.
Yeah,
he looked extremely.
He looked very opposing.
Yeah,
and like you said, foreboding.
Yeah,
this guy was gonna be a big problem.
Right. And when Kylo Ren feared the shit out of him.
Exactly.
In the first film.
Right.
And then in this film, you not only get first of all, the veil when you remove the veil
of mystery
it makes the person you fear just not nearly as scary, which is what people were saying about Kylo Ren in the first movie when he took his mask off.
That was it.
It's like, dude, I'm not afraid of you anymore, or your big ears,
or your weird nose. And here's the thing, and this is how I feel like Ryan approached it. I think Ryan didn't like a lot of what Force Awakens did. I think, and you can feel it in the movie. Like, if, like you said, once you unveil the mystery, it then becomes silly.
Yeah.
So for Kylo Ren to still walk around wearing this mask, it's silly.
It's silly in its own right, too.
And that's why, just a quick spoiler before we go into spoiler territory, Snoke was like, take that silly thing off.
Yeah, that was actually...
That was a very meta. This movie's very meta.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's very, very, very meta. And it's heavy-handed, so I can see how it rubbed people the wrong way. But I'm extremely happy they did. Like, I'm sympathetic because it's two different ways of thinking, right? You have the one person who has all the Star Wars encyclopedias and knows every number to every bolt and gear on the Millennium Falcon.
Right.
And then you have people who just want a good story. And people forget real quick that before he was Senator Palpatine and had this big fleshed out origin, he was just the Emperor. And we didn't know what his deal was.
Right.
He died just as hard as Snoke did back then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think it's really a product of the time where people have a lot easier way to voice their opinion. Because I can imagine reading a tweet and, whenever Empire came back, for people signing petitions to make Empire not canon. Silly shit like that, right? And it's like, you have to do this for a series to grow. And this movie set, and that's pretty much the bulk of this movie, is the underlying plot of this movie.
Going back to Senator Palpatine, and I agree with this sentiment as well. It's like, so on the one hand, I understand Snoke being snuffed out before we really get to know who he is, to see that if he really is a problem. But in the same token, like, is his background really that necessary?
It's really not.
Just like Senator Palpatine, before we saw him, like, you look in the expanded universe, he was just a dickhead.
He was a dickhead, like, puppet master who got the upper hand in return.
Yeah, and he wasn't that interested.
But the story was about Luke, right? At the end of the day. And here the story is about Rey at the end of the day. And the story was about Darth Vader, because that's where it turned to. And here the story is about Ben. And these are the pillars of the story. So anything outside of that, unfortunately, and fans are going to hate this, is that it's sacrificial lamb if necessary.
Right.
There's a scene in this movie where I was like, man, they're going to kill him? Like, is that it? Is he just going out? And then you kind of... let's go into spoilers. So for the remainder of this podcast, we're going to go into heavy spoilers because it's hard to talk about this movie without talking about spoilers. So, and if you're listening to this podcast, I'm assuming you've already seen the movie because this is a review. So we want to really dig deep. So back to disclaimer. But still listen, please. I need to just do it. I'm just kidding. Leaving that in.
No, do it.
The scene I was talking about is the scene where Finn is flying into the eye of the, and we're jumping a bit ahead because I kind of want to go chronologically, but it's fine. We'll cover everything by the end of this.
Let's talk about the salient things.
Yes.
First, like that.
It's a scene where the whole movie is about there's no room for heroes in war. We need leaders. We need decision makers. We need people who are going to get stuff done. And this theme is passed on to Poe Dameron. This theme is passed on to Rey in a weird way. This theme is passed on to Finn. And Finn had his moment where he thought he was going to be a martyr. He was ready to go. He closed his eyes. He did the whole Independence Day going into the eye of the hurricane, and it was kind of snuffed at the last second. But I actually felt fear in a Star Wars movie, which is hard to do because Star Wars movies have been so cookie cutter and so formulaic. I'm going to say since Empire, which is funny.
I'll say this. I didn't feel fear with him dying. I just felt like this is really stupid. There's no reason for him to actually do this. Because it's a moot point, right? Yeah,
everything about this movie is futile. Think about it. Everything, the hero's plans never work. There's so many plans that don't work in this movie.
Yeah.
Or backfire or have a weird effect. Things don't go how you think they will.
And that's the other thing that I have from an objective standpoint with this movie. There were a lot of subplots that made it kind of a little convoluted, a little hard to follow. And then some subplots just they just weren't necessary.
And I think, and it's almost to human nature in a weird way. And I don't want to get too deep because it is a Star Wars popcorn movie. But things don't go the way you want them to. And I think that's another weird subplot of this movie. Like, I'm going to talk about one of, I think, the most superficial scenes in the film is the casino scene.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
And it's such an odd duck out.
Yeah.
And it almost was created to be a vehicle just for Finn and Rose, which is fine. I want to get to know these characters because Finn gives me a feeling that he's like a mix between Han Solo and almost Luke in a weird way. He's naive a little bit, but he's also very cowardly in a weird way, but he's also very brave. He's a very weird mix. But the casino scene, I was sitting there and I'm like, this feels like a reverse, like cantina scene, right?
Yeah.
But then it goes too long.
Yeah, exactly.
It goes way too long, and the jokes are way too superfluous and superficial.
Yeah.
And that's another problem that I think this movie has, is that it tries too hard to be funny.
Yeah, I got
in
that.
certain
It's
parts.
It's the same thing. It reminded me of Thor.
Mm-hmm.
And
Ragnarok,
I was
right?
kind of
Yeah.
I mean, they worked for that movie.
Right. Because it had a comic writer who knew how to land those jokes.
For this, it seems pretty forced.
It seems like he was trying to talk to two different audiences.
Yeah.
He wanted you to be cerebral and really think about it, but he also wanted the kids to giggle when he wanted kids to giggle.
Right.
And you can't. It's extremely hard to balance that.
It didn't translate.
And it didn't translate very well. Like, one scene that just bothers me is when that weird leprechaun was shoving coins
BB-8.
in the BB-8, and then maybe 40 minutes into it, because that's how long we're on this planet, BB-8 shooting coins
Yeah, it's like how long?
like a machine gun,
Yeah,
and it's knocking dudes out.
Yeah, that part.
Silly stuff, right?
I don't. Wait, this logically speaking, it's a movie, but how he was shooting out a lot of coins. So
That dude must have been pumping coins into him for like half an hour.
And if that's the case, and he had that many coins in his,
How did he travel?
How did he even move around?
How did he even still operate?
Exactly.
That thing would have shut down, or just told homeboy to stop, right? But he was shooting him out like ninja stars. You know, he looked like the Strider, and I'm just like, what is this? This is not funny. Like, I get it, but
I mean, also say the fact that Benicio del Toro was also random.
I think I was waiting for him to pop up because they kept his character very hush hush. Yeah. I like the idea of his character being the gray neutral, but he's just random. Yeah, and he was absolutely unnecessary to the story. Right. Outside of, once again, setting up stuff for Finn to do and stuff for Rose to do, who honestly had nothing to do with this film.
Precisely.
They had really no stake in, because he was trying to jet anyway, because he was looking for Rey, and she was pretty much defeated because, you know, her sister passed away at the very beginning, at the opening of the film.
They shoehorned her in there, and he did it further even more with the whole casino scene to flesh out
her storyline. She's like, "Oh, this place is wonderful. How could you not like this place?" Like, don't you see the underlying horror of this whole planet? And she's like, you know, pardon my French, like, fuck this planet, dude. Then, it's kind of the worst.
But then, like, okay, right when she said that, when she said look closer. Yeah. I was looking closer and I saw a racetrack with gigantic foxes, and I'm like, oh, so she's an animal? Like,
but she is, though. Right. In a weird way.
I get it. But then, like, I thought they were also pushing another little mini narrative.
I think they were. There was two narratives. There was slave labor and there was PETA. It was very like, these animals should be free, which is fine.
Right. Until I saw the kids, I was like, okay, I get it.
Oh, she was saying she was one of them kids. Right. Maybe on this planet, maybe on another planet, but it reminds her of her upbringing, her and her sister. Right. But we're going to talk about them damn kids later. I get it, but so much of this movie is I get it. Mm-hmm. Okay, I get it, but it's just not done. It's not done well. And I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the very end of the movie, right? Yeah, the last 3 minutes of the movie kind of soured me on it a little bit. It stopped it from me being absolutely I love it, because I left out the theater pumped. I felt good. Yeah. And then that last 3 minutes happened, and I'm just like, who is this for, man? Like,
I'll actually address that in a minute, because I haven't answered that. But continuing on.
Yes, continuing on. Let's go into some characters. Let's go into some character arcs. Let's start with I think the person who had the most interesting arc in the film is Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, by default.
And you almost didn't know how much Luke was going to be in this thing, like the way they kind of painted it. And his first 5 minutes on screen perfectly encapsulate what this movie is. You know, the movie starts 30 seconds after the end of The Force Awakens. almost immediately after, because she's still reaching out with her hand,
Well,
giving Luke the lightsaber.
well, actually, I thought it started off with the dogfight in space.
It did. The dogfight was going on at the same time, I think.
Okay.
Because the dogfight is them escaping that weird planet,
Yes, you're
and
right.
the First Order is following them through space.
Right, correct.
So at the same time, Rey is across the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was like a day. Maybe it's like a couple of days, because it goes like how long did it take Rey to get to Luke's sadness depression planet? You know what I'm saying? So Octo, right? So she's handing the lightsaber over to Luke, and he looks at it for 2 seconds and just throws it over his shoulder. Yeah. That's the perfect metaphor for what this movie is. Yeah, exactly. It's like, stop holding on to this dumb shit. Right. Let us grow.
And that's also the actual theme of the movie. And even Kylo Ren says that. We'll get into that later.
We'll get into when we go over his character kind of arc. But Luke had a very interesting arc because it wasn't what you thought it was going to be. And it's almost like it's almost like the director screaming at the camera, "What do you want? Do you want him to be this perfect, super like OP Mary Sue that's just going to come and save the day?"
Exactly. That whole thing.
Is that interesting to you?
You thought that I was going to
just swoop in with my laser sword and defeat the whole First Order, and that was just going to be that? Like, do you think life works that way?
Yeah, that he was breaking the third wall.
He was really breaking the third wall, and Rey was like, "I guess not," because he didn't want to train her butt to begin with, because he was still soaking about the revelation between him and Ben. Yeah. And you kind of see him come around, and it's like every anime you've seen. It's the reluctant master who's like, "Go away," right? And then they start warming up to him. Speaking of things that were probably warm, how do you feel about that awkward four-titted milk scene with Luke? Was that unnecessary, or do you? It felt kind of if another joke that was forced.
Honestly, I thought it was weird. Of course.
Yeah. My audience had a weird reaction to it.
I just thought it was kind of inconsequential. I felt like it was no reason to put it in there.
I get it. Like, they wanted to show Luke's, like, what have you been doing on this island this whole time?
I mean,
and he's been mastering living by himself, right. I guess, with the caretakers.
And exactly.
Right? And it's kind of like Rey, like, man, you don't have shit to do, man. You just kind of, you hunt for a split second, you get stupidly, absurdly large fish. You drink weird four-titted, like, beast milk, and the beast looks at Rey like, yeah. Remember that? He looked at her like, this is what's going down. You saw it. And it's like, it's unnecessary. But I think, I like how they tarnish their heroes. Yeah. And Luke was like, man, I'm this immortal hero, but people don't really understand what I'm going through. And that's why do you think I came to the most unfindable planet in the galaxies? Because I want to be left alone. I want to die here. The Jedi need to die. I am technically the last Jedi. It's time for this to end. And his cruel tutelage, funny enough, was him explaining why it works and why it shouldn't work. Right. I thought that was brilliant because it breaks down people's expectation of good and evil of the Jedi. People have made real life people have made religions off this shit, and it's like in this movie tells you like you can't take this, you can't follow this to the letter because it's poisonous.
Right. One of the things they did really, really well, and I'm glad they did it, was and it also goes to the whole idea of our ideology of heroes.
Yeah.
And legends. And he says, I'm paraphrasing, but he says something to the effect of, I'm this legend. People make legends out of me, but here I've made mistakes.
Right.
I've fucked up.
I fucked up heavy.
Royally.
Yeah.
And he's focusing on that.
And if you think about it, Luke has always been kind of the weird fuck up from A New Hope. Right. Yeah. He's put his eggs in the wrong basket a couple of times. Yeah. And that's when he's his strongest, honestly. He was an imperfect hero back then. You know what I mean? Before he became the savior of the rebellion and all that crazy stuff. Yeah. And people are saying that this is uncharacteristic for Luke, but I say this is the end of the road for a broken hero.
Right. I think, I've heard that too. And my rebuttal to that is, no, this is exactly the way he should be.
Exactly.
Because he finally understood that committing yourself to a religion like this really it's not necessary, because first of all, the Jedi religion It's all about suppressing your emotions.
Exactly.
And suppressing just that you don't, not just that you don't fall to the dark side, but also that you're very much in tune with the force.
With the force, yeah.
And the problem, and it's like I tell people all the time, you don't just become a Sith out of nowhere. You become a Sith because of the
repressed feelings.
Yeah. And
you were a Jedi. And usually most Sith, and he said that the Jedi are historically failures.
Yeah, they've had loads of failures.
Loads of failures to the point where they allowed the Senate to be taken over by two Sith.
Right.
Two Sith defeated the entire Jedi Order.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because of their short-sightedness and their hubris.
The hubris, and also the fact that they were sort of not just arrogant, but they were drunk off their own
holiness.
Yeah.
They were too pious. They were overly up their own asses, and that led to their downfall. And that's one of the first things he taught Rey was like the Force. And I want to get into the Force because it kind of ties into him. I love this expansion on the idea of what the Force is. Yeah. And through his abilities, which we'll talk about later, which we'll talk about at the end of his story arc, is the Force is not what we thought it was. No. It's not. And one of his main things is that the Force doesn't belong to Jedi. No. The Force doesn't belong to Sith. It belongs to anyone. Yeah. It just is. And I like, and this harkens back to Rogue One with Donnie Yen's character, who was Force sensitive. Right. And you can see little Force-like premonitions on his end. Right. And it's like, the Force is just infinite, and you can use it however you want to apply it. Right. But it's not for you to grip. And the Force has always been connected to Jedi. Mm-hmm. And this movie's teaching us that that's wrong. Mm-hmm. The Force is pretty much the Big Bang molecule.
Anybody can think of the Force.
Yeah.
But that also, that's where my conflict comes from, too, because the narrative that anybody can use a Force totally flies in the face of what, the reason why, basically flies in the face of the idea that there's like a few people who have midi-chlorians and all this.
I think they tried to bury the metachlorians in this film. That it's like everyone has metachlorians, right? Every living thing on this planet, on the universe, has quote unquote metachlorians, the God particle, right?
Well, yeah.
And certain things have higher concentrations of it.
I was gonna say exactly Higgs boson particle, which they equate to that. So are they trying to equate midichlorians to the God particle, or are they just saying that the Force is everywhere?
I think, honestly, that what they're trying to say is that we're all saturated with the Force because we are. And it took Rey's quote-unquote spiritual awakening to then tap into that Force. I believe that everyone has the actual components to be a Jedi or a Sith. It's just that some people are more in tune with it, almost like empathy. Everyone can feel everyone's feelings, but empaths have it just a little bit stronger to where they can actually feel people's emotions a bit stronger for whatever reason. And these people are the kids that go to the Jedi Temple.
Hence the last few minutes of the movie.
Exactly. So, and it's kind of like, it takes you have to believe. Like, look at Han Solo, the perfect example. Han Solo was one of the most non-Force, sensitive characters in the entire film. That was his point. He was the counterbalance to all the magic and mystery. But by The Force Awakens, he's like, that shit's real, dude. He's like, I've seen it firsthand. And he's actually Force sensitive. Right. In certain, he shoots cats from miles away, not even looking. Like, he's actually tapped into the Force on some weird level. You know what I mean? So I think this movie's showing, if you apply yourself and you believe, you can then become a bit more in tune with the Force and use it however you wish. And it turns the Force from just being mere telepathy or telekinesis, and it's almost going into the range of reality manipulation. Yeah. You can... Which goes into the end of the final battle.
I don't think that was reality manipulation.
How could it not be?
That really, well...
I mean, let's get into it, the last stand of Luke Skywalker, pretty much. And this goes...
It was projection.
But it was tangible projection. Yeah, tangible projection. There's a scene right in between, which is one of my favorite scenes in the movie, is where Luke is going to go burn down the Jedi tree. They're pretty much the God tree, the lights, and all the books and all that stuff. And Yoda appears to him because he's actually re-establishes himself with the Force, because he can commune with Force sensitive entities that still exist on the plane of existence.
A quick side note: I really, really, really hated the way they made Yoda look.
I loved it. Why?
This is actually one of the worst iterations of the.
Why?
It looked so
You know, I get it. It's because
terrible.
But I know it. I get it, right? They didn't want CG jumping around, flipping around Yoda.
Right.
They didn't want complete Jim Henson puppet Yoda.
Yeah.
So they found a funky balance and uncanny valleyed them together. And I get it.
I get
right?
I get the idea of it. It's just,
But
it looked so bad.
It looked rough because they tried to have their cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
But you can't, either you puppet it out or you CG it out. But it's not a human body. You can't just add little tweaks of CGI to make it look better. Yeah. It's an inanimate object being altered by an inanimate object. Yeah. I get that. But the scene with Yoda, where Luke actually turns himself around and gets the ideas, like, and Yoda's like, you haven't learned anything for being a master, you kind of silly kid. You keep trying to see the forest through the trees. Like, you keep trying to see beyond your own nose. Like, it doesn't matter. None of that shit matters. Like, Rey already knows all the things she's supposed to know to be a Jedi through you. You've taught her that. Those books don't matter. And it's like, I could see people melting down in the theater like, no, it all matters. Page 3 of the Jedi text states, and they're so stuck on that dogma that they can't see the real point of this film. Is that you can't grow if you're stagnant. And that's what Luke didn't see, and that's why he lost faith in the Force, because he thought lost faith in the Jedi, because he thought the Jedi were stagnant, and that he needs to kill it. He needs to kill this root now before it endangers more people. And he learned through Yoda and through Rey, and actually through rethinking his moments with Ben, which I think we should talk about before closing out to the last battle, was what really happened. And the way it was explained was this weird Rashomon kind of setup, where it's like, what really happened the night the Jedi Temple fell, right? And one side of it was Luke was like, yeah, Ben was asleep, he was knocked out, and I felt a darkness in him through training. I needed to see for myself. So I went to his little weird little Star Wars hut with his blue milk, and I read his thoughts. And it was some of the deepest, darkest thoughts I've ever seen. So I figured I should take him out, right? I should take him out now before he becomes an extreme problem. Right. Ben wakes up, crushes the thing, destroys the Jedi Temple. The Knights of Ren are wherever. They didn't even mention them in this movie. Right. What are the Knights of Ren? Hopefully we'll get that in the last one. And then you have Ben's side of it, where Ben was like, dude, I was knocked out. I wasn't even thinking about...
And that he just came and tried to kill me outright.
He was afraid of my power and tried to kill me, and I took him out. Yeah. And then Rey confronts Luke, and actually gets a hit off on him, which is weird, maybe because he wasn't connected to the Force and couldn't feel it. Yeah. And then he's like, no, what really happened is that I hesitated. For a split second, I wanted to kill, I felt like I needed to kill him. But then I came to my senses, and all I saw was a scared young boy. And that rounds out Luke so well to being this flawed character, to being this flawed hero, which he's always been.
Yeah. And that makes the most sense. That's why that has to be true.
Yes, that makes the most sense. Yeah. He was like, gotta do it. Yeah. And then he turned on his lightsaber. The light from the beam woke up Ben. And he was just like, I can't do it, man. It's my sister's son. It's my nephew. Yeah. There's got to be a way, right? But it was already too late. Yeah. Ben already had and it made it sound like Ben was already being courted by Snoke at that point. That's what it made it sound like.
I think what it was actually, and you can see this. Kylo Ren. I'm just gonna call him Kylo Ren.
That's fine
because it's pointless to call him Solo. Anyway, he's very impulsive and very reactionary.
He's very reactionary.
So I honestly don't think. I mean, Snoke had something to do with him turning into those what he is now.
He was already embracing those.
Very impulsive.
And let's get into. Do you want to get into Kylo and then get into their last battle?
Yeah.
It's just as an end wrap up.
Well, also I want to talk about Leia.
Oh. Okay. You want to talk about Leia?
Let's talk about that first.
Let's talk about Leia because Leia's a quicker talk.
Yeah. Because
Okay.
Go for it.
Here, I love Leia's character.
I really do.
Yeah,
actually.
she's a kick-ass princess.
You know, her performance actually was pretty phenomenal.
Yeah,
It
Carrie killed it.
And
you know, rest in
it
peace.
was also kind of also rest in peace because, and it kind of made me really sad too because
that scene.
Well, because her daughter is in the movie as well,
and they have a lot of scenes together, and her daughter gets a lot of play in this movie.
Yeah,
and it just wells you up, man. It's like this.
It really sucks.
It really sucks. But the scene I want to talk about is the opening sequence where you thought they were giving Carrie her out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
exactly.
Pretty much, there's this giant dogfight in the beginning of the film. Kylo's wounds haven't even healed yet, and he's like, "I'm gonna go take out the ship." He encounters their rebel ship. He foresees his mom on the bridge, and he's going in for the kill. And for a second, there's hesitation. Yeah, because I don't care how evil you are. I don't care if you're Darth Vader. You're just not gonna kill your mom,
it's your mom,
dude.
exactly.
It's your mom, dude.
Yeah.
So lucky for him, fighters behind him do the job for him.
Right.
And it kind of made me feel a bit good for Kylo for a second. It's like, okay, he's not totally a scumbag. He's not going to just wipe out his mom. So, hashtag fuck Kylo. So, she gets sucked into space, right? And because the entire bridge is wiped out. And she has this beautiful, poignant, floating in midair, crystallizing from the dead coldness of space. You can see her eyes and the light reflecting off of the crystals, and it's a beautiful moment. Yeah. And I'm sitting here. It's a weird, oddly beautiful moment. It's almost like a Tim Burton film. And I'm like, all right, this is her moment to go out, right? This is their exit for her.
I was actually really pissed. I was really pissed.
At what happens next?
No, I was really pissed about
how they were doing it?
How they did it. Because well, okay, go ahead.
All right. So you start seeing her hands, and she's like freezing. And then you see her hand kind of twitch. And you're like, okay, she's still cognizant of what's going on. And then you see her fingers frail out. And Leia starts force pulling herself from the vastness of space back onto a unaffected part of the ship. And she survives the vacuum of space. Uses the Force on an extremely difficult setting. I don't think any Jedi could have done that. Just any regular ass Jedi could have dne that. No. Like a Jedi Knight couldn't have done that. It would take a Jedi Master to survive space, right? Like the fuck, like certain Marvel characters can't do that, right? Like Iron Man can't survive space without a suit. So she gets back on board and she goes into a weird plot coma. Yeah, and people were so mixed about that moment, but to me, it makes perfect sense.
I honestly thought that they were just gonna have her. Man, okay, let me preface this by saying I'm actually really, really impressed by the way Rian Johnson did her in the movie. Yeah. And how he wrote her character and how he had her act her character.
Exactly.
I thought that was wonderful.
She was one of the standout things of the film.
But knowing that she was already dead, I was mad that they I thought they were just gonna
let her go.
Yeah, just like that when the bridge was like, okay, fuck this movie.
Right, that's a horrible way to send her out.
This is the worst decision ever made.
Yeah.
So far, she's the best damn actor
in this film.
At that point.
Yeah.
And so, General Akbar gets killed off in the background. People mad about that too. But whatever.
It was a trap.
I mean,
it was. It was a trap.
But anyway, so and so I thought they were just gonna let her ride out the movie in a coma and then she would die later.
Right.
Which I also wasn't unhappy about. But
right.
it would have made sense at the time.
Right.
We didn't know how much of her they filmed.
And she had so much more.
Right.
Like plot wise.
Right, exactly.
To do.
Precisely. However, the thing about her, getting to her use of the Force, we never knew, she was never, a Force user. She was Force sensitive.
She was Force sensitive.
She could use it to sense people, but you never see her use
the Force. And this goes back to my theory that you don't have to be a Jedi,
right,
to be Force sensitive,
right,
or to be Force applicable,
right. When she was Force sensitive before that, anyway,
right. Yeah. And it makes me think like, you don't think she got a couple of lessons from Big Brother Luke over the 30 years, him running temples, like. She had to learn something. Yeah. She's a Skywalker after all. Yeah. So it's like, makes sense to me. Yeah. Like, finally, if this is her final movie, let her be a boss.
Yeah.
Let her be like a quiet, powerful boss, like her force choking the shit out of people who ain't listening to her.
Yeah.
She's not a Jedi.
Right.
She'll just kick your ass with the force.
Yeah.
And it gives her a level of gravitas that makes her a general, makes her a queen. You know what I mean? I wonder if she even knew like force trickery, like makes you think, right? Like in that moment, I freaked out. I literally screamed like a kid. I was like, finally, Lois. Leia is a beast, dude. Let's go. But at the same time, I felt weird because I was like, you had your route and you didn't take it. So what now? Mm-hmm. Right? What is you're going to kill her off twice? Yeah. But
that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, this is okay. This is even getting worse.
This is getting worse, and this is an easy way, like, to sandwich her with her replacement, Laura Dern, which was this kind of in place general while she was in her plot coma.
She reminded me of a movie that she Starbucks barista manager, but
Did that touch a nerve when you saw that? You're like, bastard.
Especially with the purple.
Well, all that purple? Jeez Louise.
That bureaucratic shit.
She's like bureaucratic by the book shit. And she was the one who put Poe to task.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And he needed to be put in Poe.
Honestly, Poe was the most irrational character in the film. I'm counting Snoke and Kylo. Yeah. Poe was all over the place. Yeah. And that was his arc. And I like that. I like, that Poe's arc was, you need to get your head out of your ass and learn the casualties of war and make better decisions.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
He's preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly what he needed to do.
Right.
But,
and he's like,
he's
like, we won. And Leia's like, you wasted the entire battalion. There's only 3 boats left of the entire rebellion.
Yeah,
you killed
bombers left.
And they just souped in another dreadnought like it was nothing. And it's like, your victory, you had a flaccid victory. You need to make better decisions. You're demoted. And he's like, yeah, whatever. And then Laura Dern was like, nah, for real, you're demoted. There's no reason to talk to you. I know guys like you. You're flyboy pieces of shit. And you'll get us all killed with your bravado. Go sit down somewhere. Yeah. And, of course, he went off to do his own thing, which equated to nothing.
Yeah. And that's what I was also talking about with the subplots. Like, they were just the subplots. They were like,
even the secondary subplot of we need to escape the Order literally stopped at a snail's pace. It's so stupid. Why can't we just destroy them? They're out of range of our blasters.
I mean, the way they were
okay, let's just follow them.
So actually, the way they were explaining this is that because they were just out of range, they were going at regular speed, not jumping. They were still going full speed ahead. The whole time they were burning that fuel. And of course, it's just like Einstein's theory of relativity. Like from where we stand, like they're moving super slow. Yeah. But they're actually moving really, really fast.
Extremely fast.
But it had some people were saying, well, why can't they just jump toward them? Well, if they did a jump, they would have overshot and like probably hit the fucking planet.
They would have went ludicrous speed, like in Spaceballs, and they would have overshot them by how many days?
Exactly. Plus, the other thing too, which is kind of dumb, is it's not like the First Order couldn't see where they were going.
There's a big ass planet on the way.
Yeah. So
who cares if it's inhabitable? These people are on the run for their lives. They're going to go to any port in a storm, right? Yeah. So it's like they couldn't have guessed, or some tactician could have been like, "What's wrong with that planet, sir? It's 5 miles ahead. That's a hell of a base. You think they're headed there?" Just to be sure, send some troops down there just to be sure.
Something.
Just they're a damn military. Yeah. And the thing about the First Order, let's get on these fuckers, is they're kind of incompetent. Yeah. They're kind of bumbling. Yeah. This goes back to my idea of Ryan not liking certain parts of Force Awakens and making it stupid. Mm-hmm. I don't think he liked Snoke. I don't think he liked the idea of Rey's parents being this giant mystery. Mm-hmm. So he made him either silly or non-existent, So again, and then that's another thing. So like the whole issue of her Rey, and then trying to figure out her parents, and they just show her. Yeah. Of course, as you probably imagine, know what that reminds me of.
reminds me of Anakin.
Yeah.
And Anakin just being born of a miraculous
Born
birth.
of the quote unquote
like,
of the Force. And
if that's where they're going with this, then
I want to talk about that, her dark side trip. And it's not even a dark side trip because it wasn't inherently evil.
No.
It was Luke got scared because she looked into the dark side. He's like, you didn't even try to pull away.
Yeah.
You went right to the dark. You didn't even try to fight it.
Right.
She was like, I was curious. And that's some of that old world Jedi thinking.
Yeah.
She's like, no, I'm not training you. Fuck that.
Yeah.
So she ended up going there herself because Luke wasn't messing with her.
Yeah.
And it was a cool moment where they had the reflections and the snapping reflection.
Yeah.
And then she went into the Harry Potter mirror of truth or whatever. Two became one, and it was just her. And I was like, same thing happened to Luke.
Right.
Same thing happened to Anakin.
Right.
You are yourself. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter. This whole movie is a big fat it doesn't matter.
Right.
And her arc was interesting because it was almost like, who are you? Everyone's like, who the hell are you?
Yeah.
You have no stake in the story. And you have no lineage. You have no place here. Like, and it goes back to Kylo. I hate to jump around, but it's just the way this movie works.
Yeah.
Is Kylo is an entitled brat. And he honestly is the worst parts of the fan base. Yeah, I'm a Skywalker. This is my story.
He rubbed me the wrong way.
To
begin with. And the whole
then that weird force tethering thing where they're having like cell phone talks.
Yeah. I'm mixed on that because it on one part I thought it was kind of cheesy, but on the other hand, it also just still shows that there's parts of the Force that we don't know about. There's things
so
that
much
can do
more
with the Force that we don't know about. That
they
we
really
never in legacy films they would have never explored.
Nope. And
so that's why.
And in the prequels they didn't explore it because it was too low brow.
Yeah.
Say what you want about this film, but Ryan really expanded your ideas of what the Force actually is or was capable of. Mm-hmm. And Kylo's arc, even Kylo had a pretty decent arc because he went from, and it's been the meme that he's a baby Darth Vader. All he wants to do is emulate his grandfather, the greatest Sith of all time. And it took Snoke saying, this is stupid. You're a fucking child wearing your granddad's boots. Mm-hmm. Look at you. You're dressed like a clown. Yeah. And like he's impulsive. Mm-hmm. He didn't get his way. He didn't hear what he wanted to hear. Mm-hmm. So he just rejects the entire thing. Yep. He says, and this is something that's been stirring with him the whole film until the climactic moment where he makes his decision. Mm-hmm. And spoilers, Rey confronts Snoke, and Snoke is some kind of Sith, but we don't get it because he's using all types of Sith shit. Yeah. But he's not designated as a Sith. But he's a Sith because he's training Kylo, right? He was a Sith. But they never say those words, if now that I think about it. No. They never designate them.
There's no one, in fact, I don't even remember the word Sith even being brought up.
Unless in the film. No, it wasn't. Yeah. It's just Jedi shit. Yeah. So, Kylo makes his decision that if I can't be Darth Vader, screw it all. Screw the Resistance, screw the Force Order, screw the Jedi, screw the Sith. We're just going to be powerful badasses running the galaxy. Me and you. Yeah. Be my girl. You talk to me 3 times, you must like me. And he kills Snoke in a badass way. But he kills Snoke and rubbed people all the wrong way. Because they're like, no, what's his backstory? What planet was he born on? What's his turn-ons and turn-offs?
Right, and I get it. Also, I get it from both ends. I understand it.
Yeah.
And also, some people are saying is that going back to the episode 3, which I really don't want to talk about.
Yeah,
but
revenge.
How Sidious was talking about how he was gaining his power from the Outer Rim,
right?
And how I think they were saying that there are beings that are much more powerful
out of the Outer Rim.
And a lot of people were thinking that Snoke had to be one of those people
because apparently he's been there since before the rebellion.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why people were mad. But then I'm thinking to myself, it's like, okay,
that kind of doesn't make sense.
Okay, but we can still explore the Outer Rim later. It really gives a shit.
It really gives a shit about this dude. And the thing is that Star Trek, they're spoiled too a little bit. But Star Wars fans are so focused on the granular details that they're missing the story. They keep trying to see the forest through the trees. Yeah. They're constantly, who is this guy? Why we're never going to know now. I'm like, it's a trilogy. Right. They can go back and rehash this guy if they want. It'll be a waste of time. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't mean anything. But Snoke's place in this was to set up Ben to be the big bad, what she was supposed to be from the jump. Right. If those 3 minutes of footage of Snoke talking to Kylo never existed, then it wouldn't matter. Right. These stories are still going to play out the way they do. And Ben is just like, let's just burn it all down. Kill let the past die. Yeah. Kill it if you have to. Yeah. But just let it die and start fresh. And
which is really funny. It immediately hit me, and this is going back to, and again, I don't know if Battlefront 2 is canon.
Right.
I don't know if it is or not.
Yeah, we were talking about that some podcasts ago.
Yeah. So that I thought that planet does look familiar because it is in the game. Yeah. And that is because, so basically, long story short, spoilers if you haven't played the game, but Luke actually has been in that planet before. He didn't
the snow planet with the red and stuff, or the planet in the game?
No, the planet he was on in the movie where they found him. He'd actually been there before.
Oh, okay. So he was aware of that planet back in the day.
They don't name it in the game, but it looks exactly like
a lot of oceans, islands, and shit.
Yeah, and there are Easter eggs actually in that movie where you see like the crystal hanging off from the like when you finally see where he's living. Yeah, there are artifacts in that place that you see when you play the game. And
that's pretty cool.
And the reason why is because Luke was actually not sent there, but the Empire was sent there after Sidious died on Sidious's orders to this planet. Mm-hmm. And they said that they had to destroy it, but there was no way in it. And they were supposed to destroy it with explosives. Yeah. But, torch it, whatever. When they get inside there, because there's no way to open it for the Empire to open it. Right. Luke happened to be there, and he actually ended up opening it with the Force. Mm-hmm. And then when you open it up, there's all these artifacts.
Like the books.
Also, the Jedi artifacts, all sorts of shit.
So that's how he taught himself to become a master.
Sidious? No, this is Sidious we're talking about. This is Sidious's depot. That Sidious
wanted to destroy.
Yeah. There's a whole bunch of artifacts. I think Sith and Jedi, I'm not sure.
Right.
So,
I see what you mean.
There were some artifacts in there that were probably identical actually to what Luke found in the game. In the game, Luke says, you know what? Don't destroy those. Mm-hmm. He tells the dude Del, one of the playable characters. Yeah. He tells him, you know what? Just let me have this. Like, I saved your life. Yeah. Because the guy Del was like, the soldier's like, why'd you save me? He's like, because you've been taught to fight the wrong thing their entire life. Mm-hmm. Anyway, the point is, even then, like, that was 30 years
ago for him to sit on this stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So that's why I honestly do truly think that it is canon, because some of those artifacts were the same.
It makes sense because ever since they did the whole canon purge, when Disney bought Star Wars, everything's been canon. Yeah. All the stuff they've been putting out, the cartoons, Rebels, all this stuff's canon. So why not be the game as well? Yeah. You know what I mean? And that island in Rey's vision and Yoda pretty much telling Luke to give up the ghost. Mm-hmm. Let the past die. Mm-hmm. Right? That's the constant thing about this movie.
Well, she said, and this is another thing if you play the game. She says that she does, when the movie Rey says that she's seen this place and she's seen this stuff. Yeah. And in the game, Luke has been on this planet before. And also in the game, it progresses, because Kylo's also been on this planet before. Right. As well, which, again, like,
plays with it a little bit, because how does he not know where Luke is?
Right. And so what I'm saying is that's what also makes me think that she probably really is related to Skywalker in some way, which doesn't make sense.
Canonically, because whose kid is she? Right. Luke was a monk, unless he got busy sometime in that 30 years. Right. And if he's a Jedi twin, that's stupid. It's just bad writing. Right. So
Leia was a twin.
Leia was a twin, but then it's you don't do the same gag. You do a new gag, right? Right. So he kills. So Ben kills Snoke, and him and Rey are having cool Jedi Sith battles together, and you kind of think, oh, he's turned, and it's the feeling you get, because that's what they convey. Oh, he's turned. Maybe he's going to be a dark Jedi. Maybe he'll find a balance. And it's like, no, he's still a piece of shit. He's like, it's like the whole Anakin thing, where Anakin was like, I'm just going to kill the Emperor, and we're going to run the galaxy under my regime. It's the exact same thing. He's doing his best Darth Vader impression. And Rey's like, come on, man. She even says, she's like, come on, dude. Like, really? Like, this is what we're doing? And he goes on this diatribe, and she's like, no, you're not getting that lightsaber. You haven't earned Luke's lightsaber. You haven't learned the Skywalker lightsaber. Right. And it ends up being destroyed. Yeah. And,
which is also symbolic.
Exactly.
Because it had to end somehow, some way, and that's what Rian Johnson was also trying to convey.
Exactly. It has to end. For this thing to grow outside of the Skywalker lineage, you have to kill it. And that means diluting the bloodline, if that means just killing off all the Skywalkers, Rey included, if she's a Skywalker. That's what you got to do. Right? And that's what he's trying, and I think that's what he pitched Disney. He's like, look, we can't keep telling the same story over and over. The Skywalker bloodline it's at this point toxic. Yeah. It's killing the franchise. And you're going to have to make an omelet. And you're going to have to break some eggs. Are you going to allow me to break these eggs and do it right? And they were like, yeah. People are going to be pissed. They had to have known. Yeah. They've had to have test screened this thing with the biggest fans and the most casual fans. And they had to have known. Which is why Ryan hasn't been outed. You know how they do. You made a bad movie. There's no way they haven't said shit. They've just been letting Ryan do whatever he wanted to do. Because they get it. Because they get, years from now, wherever this series is, this will be the turning point. You know what I mean? For the entire series. And this will be the book and close, which should have been 9. I mean, it should have been, the book and close for the Sith, for the Jedi, or even for the Skywalkers, should have been Return. That should have been end of their story. But for nostalgia, they brought everybody back. Because Star Wars makes me think more of a granular idea anyway. You know what I'm saying? So we get to one of the final scenes, which is the Kylo Ren Luke Skywalker moment, which I really wanted to talk about because it's extremely polarizing. Some people loved it, some people hated it. How did you feel about it?
I thought, well, first of all, I was already privy to
the whole gag.
The illusion was up when motherfuckers walking around. There's no footprints. Plus, he has his old lightsaber.
Smart. You're so smart.
You just saw his lightsaber get destroyed.
You're so, and I didn't even catch that. Where the fuck you get this lightsaber? Did he just build it? He doesn't care about him. He threw it away. Exactly. So where does he get one now?
It made no sense.
He had a clean shave. Exactly. His hair was cut. He got lined up before he came to the fight. How did he get there? It's one way in, one way out.
Right. Which is also interesting that's how he sees himself. But
it's almost like his Matrix. Digital projection of himself.
Right.
This is me at my best.
So, spoilers again. When Luke is fighting Kylo Ren on the planet, he's actually not even there. It's a projection of himself.
He's astral projecting himself, but it's more than that. It's because, and help me, what is that gold little thing he gives her?
That was Han Solo's little dice
from the Millennium Falcon, right? I didn't catch that, but
there's another thing. So he actually even projected that,
and it was real. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, this isn't mere astral projection.
It was real up until Leia put it down and Kylo picked it up,
and it stopped being real because it wasn't for him.
Because Leia knew that Luke wasn't really there.
But Luke touched her. Yeah, I mean, a robot saw him. Yeah, there was no force connection. Right? Yeah. To even pull off of to give the illusion. He held her hand. When he was fighting Kylo, their lightsabers clashed. So that makes me think...
actually, no. He didn't. He never touched them.
He never touched them? I thought they clashed lightsabers.
No.
Really?
He never touched them. That was also part of it.
Oh, yeah, because he was doing all those flips and shit. Yeah. But then it makes me think, how powerful is that astral projection to where you're fooling Kylo, who's technically an almost trained Sith? who couldn't see through the madness. Could have Snoke have seen through that madness?
Plus, Luke was cut. He cut himself off with Force, and all of a sudden, like he has a surge of power.
Well, think about it. The dam was up.
Yeah.
The moment you let that wall up, a big flood of that Skywalker DNA, he was right back at it. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he had to meditate for that time it took to get from A to B. But once he was in effect, that could have been a low-level skill for him.
I mean,
maybe the reason
either that or it's just an experimental skill.
I think
experimental nerve.
Now think about it, like you're training, you just sit in your room and you train the entire academy.
Right.
You don't have to move.
Right.
I'm thinking like he was so out of touch with the Force that he tried to do a high-level move, and it cost him his life.
Yeah, that's exactly how I saw it.
And it's almost like he gave up the ghost because he knew he did what he had to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's very akin to Yoda in Return. Yoda wasn't struck down. No. Yoda didn't die in his body. Yoda kind of just disappeared into dandelion spores.
Right.
Right? He's gone, right?
Yeah.
The same can be said for Luke. Luke gave up the ghost because he was like, I am not the last Jedi. Mm-hmm. This will continue, if only to defeat you. Kid, you're not learning anything.
Right.
I'll see you later.
And also
deuces, I'm out.
Another thing that he said,
awesome,
which actually brings you all the way back to A New Hope. Actually, Easter egg, where he says, you know, if you
strike me down, I'm only gonna come back stronger, and I'm going to be with you every day like your father.
Exactly.
That's a good burn, and that's what got Kylo to freak out.
Yep.
And that's what bought enough time for them to escape. Yep. And Kylo was kind of left just as broken as the Resistance. If you think about it.
Let's talk about that scene where he wanted to blast Luke into smithereens.
You mean the Dragon Ball scene?
Yeah, that was just like,
he's like, you think you got him?
He was like, more.
Do it. All the guns. Fire all the guns at Luke. It was a good 45 seconds of just blasting them. And I'm like, what? And I was spoiled a little bit because it was like, you got to check out that last Luke scene. It's some next level shit. And I'm like, okay, so you just going to have like a force bubble around him? And it's just nothing. And I'm like, there's something funky about this.
Yeah, obviously.
And Hux, the dictator, Hitler, was just like,
that's enough.
That's kind of enough, man.
You're like,
Stop. You're wasting ammo. He's dead. He's ultra dead. And then you're like, Lucas is like, and then, he dusts his shoulders off Jay-Z style. Mm-hmm. That got a good pop in the movie theater. And it just goes to show like how damn strong Luke was when he was actually giving a shit.
Right.
You know, how strong was he actually doing shit you never heard of.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always been some weird version of astral projection, even after death.
Right.
So it makes me think, what kind of force projection is he going to be? Mm-hmm. He may just be tangible. He may not be a blue ghost. He may just be tangible.
Which is also going back to Yoda, when Yoda appears and he actually is using force powers.
Yoda calls the lightning.
Yeah.
He does like a Thor-level Zeus bolt.
Yeah.
And that makes me think like, people are so salty that Luke died, but it doesn't matter. He could just come back as a tutor. He can come back as a mentor. Yeah. Rey, for some reason, is forced out of the ass. She's going to feel it. Yeah. That doesn't sound right.
Yeah, that sounds kind of
sorry. Right. But Rey is going to... It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Luke's going to be around. It doesn't... Mark Hamill's going to be in 9, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. Harrison may be in 9. It's the last one before they start clean.
Well, I don't know how they're going to do that, but...
Maybe they just drag out his body. They'll dig it out. Make him a robot. Like, oh, fucking... Let's talk about Phasma for a second before we wrap this up. Phasma's the most wasted character outside of Boba Fett. Phasma's the Boba Fett of this series, dude. She's there to look cool and get served by literally someone with no training. There's no reason she should have lost that fight.
There's no reason for her to have come back. When she got thrown out in the fucking garbage.
She should have been dead.
She should have been dead then.
But you know what they say about her armor, right? Apparently her armor is made out of the same metal they made the Coruscant ships with and shit back in the old days. So she probably survived that shit. Shiny. But honestly, if she was dropped in a fire, it should have cooked her like a damn turkey.
Yeah, precisely. Also, like, there's a chink in the armor now.
Is her right? You saw her little eye, and that's sad. That actress, that's all she got was that little poke eye. Like, I see you, motherfucker.
But she looking at her eyes looks more like a man anyway. But
don't talk about. I love that woman. If I saw her in the streets, I would spit the hardest game of my life. She's on Game of Thrones. Grenadine. She's like 6'3", and she's beautiful. She's like a damn Norse goddess.
That's who plays her character.
If you're listening to this podcast, I will take you to Coffee Bean. I'll buy you sodas and shit. But anyway, before we end this bad boy, who's your breakaway character of this film? And I know there's a lot we didn't cover, but I wanted this to be freeform. Who's your breakout character of this film? I don't really have. I mean, so I see what you mean.
I mean, because all their story arcs are kind of just like it's like still for me they're still building up, and they're all kind of on the same level.
Yeah.
And I would if anybody has a breakout, I had to say Luke.
I was just thinking that like even in death, Luke's story arc still has a place of progression. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like there's still room for him to grow, right? Even in death. Yeah. So you can't really say he had a complete story arc. You can't say Snoke had a story arc because he didn't.
No, he didn't even have a story.
You can't say Rose had a weird story arc because she
was shoehorned in.
She was shoehorned in, and she just idolized Finn, even though he proved to be a coward. But he wasn't.
That's the other. I don't get. Okay, yeah, whatever. I don't get the whole Finn thing. Finn just seemed out of place. He seemed really out of place.
Honestly, Finn is the odd duck out.
Yeah,
he's the odd duck out of this series, and he's one character. He was supposed to be what Poe is. Yeah, but right. Poe is too real. He's too good of an actor. Yeah, but you still got to keep Finn because he fits the demographic and people love him. Yeah. So what do you do with this character? How do you make him interesting?
Because I think I remember originally Poe was supposed to die.
Yeah, Poe was supposed to die in Force Awakens, but everyone loved him so much that they were like, figure it out. Bring him back. And he kind of took Finn's spot. Yeah. And Finn is kind of like left running side guidance, on pleasure planets.
I mean, so between Poe and Finn, like they're battling out for supremacy subconsciously, but right. So like at first I thought Finn was gonna be my absolute favorite character.
Yeah.
In the beginning.
Yeah.
And then he just turned into someone I just don't know what to do with.
He's the celery in a big old order of wings, man. He's good. It's probably good that you keep him around because you may want some. Yeah. But he's not the focus, and he's not even the ranch. No. You know what I'm saying? He's the celery stalk, And it's a shame because John Boyega is a good actor and he's a good dude. Yeah. And I think he has a bright future. But they're not giving him much to work with. Yeah. Does he have a driving force? No, not at all. His only driving force in this film is Rey okay? Yeah. It's established. Rey's fine. Now what's your driving force? I want to be the martyr hero.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to be the martyr. You can't. Now what's your driving force?
I'm going to just go fix some shit.
I'm going to fix some shit. I'm going to just help my friend because she's kind of sick. And I'm going to try to like holler at her because apparently she caught feelings. So we're going to see where that goes. And he doesn't have a focus. Like even Poe, I need to become a better leader. That's a driving force. Yeah. Who am I? That's kind of like Ben/Rey. That's a driving force. Yeah. I've lost my touch with what I believe in. That's Luke's driving force. Right. Finn doesn't have any of that. Yeah. Finn is just kind of left out in the galaxy. Waits the potential. We'll see what JJ does in 9. Hopefully they give him a nice send-off because apparently they're starting clean after this, which is weird. That's what Ryan's saying. He's saying that the next series of... They said, it was announced that Rian Johnson's going to be doing the next trilogy by himself. Right, yeah. Oh, yeah. And he was saying that it's going to be a clean slate. Brand new story.
You mean when Rian Johnson comes
When Rian Johnson takes over.
So not the very next film?
No, 9 is going to be the completion of this arc. But it's going to start a fresh arc, whatever that may be. Right. I don't even know if it's going to be numbered. Which would be a bad... Well...
No, it'll be bad.
It'll be smart, actually, because what are you going to go? Star Wars Episode 27?
You can.
Just start. It should be 1, 2, 3 to one generation. 4, 5, 6, one generation. 7, 8, 9, one generation. 30 years of one story. Close it out.
I mean,
cash out your chips. Start fresh.
I mean, you got all the Jason movies.
And then you have all the weird side stories that they're going to be doing every year because Star Wars has to be every day, all day.
Yeah.
So it's like, in closing, and I have to talk about those children at the end of the damn film.
Yeah.
Explain to me what that is.
Okay, so as you were touching on that was the fact that anybody can use the Force, and you see that kid actually
just force pulled that room.
I thought I was the only one who saw that.
Yeah, it was very quiet.
Right.
Like if you blink and you miss it.
Right. So actually, at the very end of the film, you see that he has the resistance ring.
He has the resistance ring. Right.
And before that, he's talking about Luke.
Mm-hmm.
He's telling the story.
They're telling the story of what happened
on that planet.
Right. Him and his buddies.
Yeah. So the idea behind him showing the kid actually is that Luke. Well, first it's twofold. For one, remember what Leia was saying about. She gave a really candid answer about why nobody was responding to the distress call. Like,
there's no hope.
Like, you know what?
I see where you're going. Yeah.
And so the fact that Leia was wrong,
mm-hmm.
the actual spark, it's called the spark that will burn the First Order down,
mm-hmm.
was actually Luke. Because once he died and once he did what he did, just the idea he truly actually became a legend.
He became a martyr.
Yeah.
And this was the perfect representation of the campfire story.
Yeah.
The spark of hope has been reinvigorated on this random planet
mm-hmm.
with this random generation of Force-sensitive children that will be the future.
Yep.
This whole movie is about front-facing.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the past is fine. Mm-hmm. That's what Force Awakens was about.
Yeah.
This is the future. Mm-hmm. And I think this is the biggest jump in Star Wars lore in a very long time. And honestly, from Empire to now, it's been stagnant. Mm-hmm. We've been telling the same stories. We've been backtracking.
Yep.
Even in Force Awakens, we told the same story. Mm-hmm. For the first time in a long time, fans are getting original content from something that they thought would never happen again. Mm-hmm. And it's change. And people don't like change. Mm-hmm. People freak out. And my biggest fear going into this film was that it was going to be just Empire. I was going to snore through the whole thing. It's just going to be Disney formula bullshit, which is everyone's afraid that Disney's homogenizing and blanding cinema. But this man, this Cadillac of men, Rian Johnson, turned the entire industry on its ear. Maybe to the negative for right now, but it's necessary. It's absolutely necessary for this thing to go anywhere in the future.
I just hope he continues momentum. Because now that things have changed completely and they're starting fresh.
I think he has to win the fans back over.
Like I said, I just hope it's a bold move. It's a bold move. He's playing a long game. I just hope he can continue the long game.
I think he can. This guy's brilliant, dude. He's brilliant and he's brave. He's brilliant and he's ballsy. And Force Awakens was the big fat steak. Remember how bomb steak is? It's delicious. Oh no, The Last Jedi is the Brussels sprouts. Nobody likes Brussels sprouts, but it's good for you. You eat it. And the 9 is the dessert. Remember? You remember. It's tasty. Now here comes the main course, the new trilogy. This is not for you. This whole movie this is not for you. This is for the future. Yeah. And we're respecting the past and honoring the past, but we're moving forward. Get on this train or just jump off. If you were to rate this film on a scale from 0 to 5, what would you rate it?
I'd much rather rate this 0 to 10. Okay,
fine. 0 to 10. Let's do it. I'm fine with that.
I would say, honest, like reevaluate my opinion, I'd say it's 7.5.
Fair enough.
And I say that because they're also, I'm looking at it objectively, not just from the actual
as
story
a film.
As a film itself. There was some
it's very hinky. It's editing weird. It's edited weird.
Yeah.
7.5, you say?
7.5.
Now, how would you rank this as a Star Wars film?
As a Star Wars film, I would rate it actually. So out of 10 still. So out of 10, I would rate that about. I would between 8 and 9.
Oh my goodness, I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
As a film, it's flawed.
Yeah.
It's rushed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Storylines don't add up. The comedy's a bit heavy for me. It's about a 7, 7.5. If I'm going to be completely honest with myself, I love it, but it's not a perfect movie.
Yeah.
This is not Schindler's List we're talking about.
Especially the mall scene.
Especially that damn freaking casino scene.
And the mall scene.
Which one?
The Maz scene.
Maz?
They're talking to Maz and she having the quote unquote labor dispute.
Oh, that bullshit. Oh, I forgot about that. But as a Star Wars film, for me, it's right under Empire. Because it is Empire. It's not Empire storyline-wise.
Yeah.
It's Empire in its meaning, in its effectiveness, in its what it needs to do. Because Return would have never been as good if Empire was just A New Hope.
Right.
Right?
Well, because they had to come back.
The comeback kid. The sophomore slump. This had to defeat the sophomore slump. So how do you do that? You kill the past. You let the past go. Kill it if you have to. And this film gave us what we needed. Any final thoughts on Star Wars The Last Jedi, directed by Rian Johnson, 2017?
I appreciate what it's done.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, am I thrilled by it? I'm not gonna say I'm thrilled, but I like it. I mean, I like what he's done. I don't love it, but I like it.
Yeah,
and then that comes from just like understanding, being an egalitarian, understanding on both sides. Cause I'm on both sides.
Yeah,
you know, I have one half of me is there, one half of me is there. You know, they both have their irrationalities about them. So
exactly.
I'm looking at it with.
You're trying to be as even as possible with this. Yeah. If that's true.
Which is hard.
Given the subject matter.
Yeah, it's really hard.
It's extremely hard. It's almost damn it.
Because people look at you and try to be the voice of reason and slaughter you.
No. Because people take this film as seriously as they take religion.
Yeah. And
it's like trying to explain Buddhism to a born-again Christian. They're not hearing you.
Yeah.
They know what they know.
Yeah.
Right? And it's... And I don't mean to step on your final thought, but...
No. I'm totally right with that. Go ahead.
Yeah. It's just... I think it was good.
Yeah.
I wasn't crying in my seat. I wasn't freaking the hell out. I felt good leaving the theater, and I think that's what a good movie does. Mm-hmm. Either movies make you think, or they make you cry, or they make you extremely happy.
Yeah.
That's signs of a good film. And the best films do all three.
Yeah.
Right? And it was with its flaws, and it was with its problems, and you can feel studio involvement. You can feel marketing involvement. But I think it's what the doctor ordered. Yeah. I think it's what the doctor ordered, and I left with a sense of excitement for 9. What the hell's going to be 9, right?
Yeah.
And I thought I wasn't going to feel that way. I thought I was going to be able to mentally map these movies out. Oh, okay. Kylo's going to have a redemption. Luke's gonna die in the 9, and Snoke's gonna die, and Rey's gonna be the hero of the Jedi. It may not turn out that way. I don't see Ben having a turnaround.
No, and I hope he doesn't.
I hope he doesn't.
Actually, because
I want him to be a scumbag all the way through.
Because it would
tarnish his arc.
Yeah, I mean, his arc needs to complete with him, you know, ending as, like, I don't know if we're gonna call him a Sith or whatever.
Him ending as him. He's the hero of his own story.
Yeah, exactly.
And he needs a hero's end.
Right.
However you take that.
Because if they make him turn, which Rey just for some reason she wants him.
She's assumed it just like Luke would assume from Vader.
Right.
Which mirrors that.
Right.
You sense your feelings.
That's what I would hate, because he's not Vader.
He's not Vader. That's the whole damn point. Yeah. He's not Vader.
No.
He's a self-entitled brat who thinks all this is he sees it as his lightsaber. He sees
Right.
the story as his. I'm the Skywalker.
Right.
You're no one.
Yeah.
I'm the hero, and I love that Ryan turned that on its head.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that's my final thought is that Star Wars as you know it is different.
Mm-hmm.
It's irrevocably damaged, but also healed.
Mm-hmm.
Right? All of your encyclopedia books and all of your deep lore doesn't matter at the end of the day in the eyes of great storytelling. All that extra stuff.
You're gonna get a bunch of fucking letter bombs.
I'm just saying, like,
you're gonna get.
I'm being real. I'm being
all
real.
sorts of shit.
Like, guys, really listen to me. And I'm trying to tell you a life example. All the details of your life don't matter in the moment. In the moment, you're happy, you're sad, you're upset. And in that moment, and these moments pass. You can't hold this stuff to your chest for too long, otherwise you won't be able to learn anything.
Of course.
You can't fill a full glass. You got to pour some of this shit out if you want to experience new things. If you just want laser swords and weird droids and funny fart jokes and galaxy destroying situations, then watch everything else. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that Star Wars should become a romantic comedy or just totally switch gears, but I'm saying that you have to open your heart and open your mind, open your fandom to something that's not what you're used to. Let it surprise you. Don't be mad when things don't go the way you want it to, when your headcanon doesn't work out.
Not like Kylo Ren.
Not like Kylo Ren. Exactly. That's why I love his character, because he's a metaphor for fans.
Right.
Kylo is the metaphor for those entitled fans who believe they know this stuff more than the director does. And it's not just the director making this film. Mm-hmm. It's Skywalker Ranch super historians that have sat with him and helped him plan this shit out. So it all canonically makes sense, whether you like to admit it or not.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, like, you can like this stuff. You can like all the granular stuff and all the extremely detailed stuff. And if that's your personality, God willing for you. And I'm not going to back down on my post, but I'm just saying, allow yourself to be excited. Allow yourself to know. Once you reveal the veil of mystery and is no longer interesting, what you mentioned earlier, let there be a veil of mystery. We don't need to know who Snoke is for him to play this part.
Nope.
Rey's family don't have to be anything for her to play her part. What makes more sense to you? That you have to be from some bloodline to be important? Or that anybody can be the hero? How does that make you feel?
Right.
If I'm, in the grand scheme of things, I'm a nobody. Mm-hmm. I don't want to accept the idea that if my name isn't, so I'm not going to just start naming big because that's weird. If I'm not some hoity-toity person of power, I will never have.
If you're not Bruce Wayne.
If I'm not Bruce Wayne, I can't be the hero. I'm Jason Todd. I'm a dude trying to.
That's
he became the hero from nothing, and Luke became the before the Skywalker name was anything. Luke became a hero from nothing.
Yeah. And
right.
You got to remember also too, guys. Like, Star Wars is actually, if you take it for what it's worth, Star Wars is actually a whole lot older than these films.
A whole lot older.
We're talking about like tens of thousands of eons. So
there's so much story to tell outside of these people's problems.
Yeah. So
it's an entire universe. We're in one galaxy.
Yeah.
This movie's telling you the Force could be used 101 different ways. There could be different forms of Jedi out there that don't call themselves Jedi. It's a metaphor for religion, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Just because if you're a Jedi, does that make... I don't want to go into this, man. It's too deep. It's too deep. I'm ending it here. But you get what I mean.
I know exactly what
you know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you mean.
Because you think a certain way, and someone else thinks a different way, is their way wrong.
Of course.
Are different, or weird, or are evil. No. It's just a different way of thinking. Open your minds to new things. Let things be different. Let things shock you. I, for one, am excited for the future of Star Wars. Because I don't know what the hell is going to happen, and that's awesome to me.
So, in the wise words of Morpheus, free your mind.
Free your mind. Is that air you're breathing now? Good times, good times. Where can we find you, Darren?
You can find me at BRB Bureau at, oh God, fucking sucks. You can find me at Beer Bureau on Twitter, or you can find me on Facebook at Beer Business Bureau, and you can find me on YouTube at Beer Business Bureau. Please watch my stuff, even though I can't get my handles right.
That's totally fine. I butcher Nerdiverse every single time I try.
That's a lie, but okay.
I'm getting it down. I'm getting better. If you were to make a dark side stout, what would your ingredients be?
Ooh, it's so funny because I was looking at that when I went to the Playa Vista theater. They had some cocktails.
Yeah.
It would be. It would incorporate hatch chilies or some sort of chilies.
That fire.
Yeah.
That fire.
To represent the central theme of the Sith, which is struggle.
This is why. I'm going to call it. I want you to be my review guy, dude. I love it. I love it. I love that. I just love it. Sorry. That's so deep and it's so sick. All right.
Because you're struggling to get those damn chilies down.
Down your damn throat.
And you know what's going to happen.
And you're going to end up burning. Your eyes are going to be red and yellow.
Yeah.
Remember what they say, people. You taste it twice. Got them. As always, you can find me on MNerdiverse on Twitter. That is at MNerdiverse, where I post almost every day silly stuff because I am a weirdo, ladies and gentlemen. You can always find this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, SoundCloud, YouTube, and now iHeartRadio.com. If you're listening to this on iTunes, I thank you for listening to our reviews podcast, but I also ask and humbly request that you leave us a like, a comment, or a star rating. It could be a 5-star, it could be a 0-star. I just want to hear what you have to say. It will extremely increase this podcast notoriety. It will increase our grip on, and we'll turn this. And what I want to become is the first order. I want to become the first order, and I want to be General Hux, and I want red hair, but it's not going to work out. Just leave me a like, leave me a follow. Just keep in touch with us because we love talking to you. This has been MOTN Reviews. I have been Mike G.
It's been real. I'm Darren.
And we're always going to ask you to look towards the skies. Look towards the skis.